Josh, how are you, brother?
Hey, good mate. Good to be on with you.
It's really kind. It's really kind you've come on the show. It's great that you're over there in Canada. I was there in 91 or 92, I think. You're in Alberta.
Yeah, Alberta. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you say Calgary?
Yeah, outside of Calgary, so Western Canada, near the Rocky Mountains.
Yeah. Have they still got the big ski jumps there in Calgary?
Yeah. You can still see them from the Winter Olympics back in the day.
Yeah, that's right. Wow, I had a great time there. You were born in Canada, but served in the British Royal Marines.
That's correct. Yeah.
What?
So, yeah, I was a pretty adventurous kid, and just ended up in the Corps, sort of thing. So there's been a few Canadians since, well, when I was in, there was a few Canadians, South Africans, Aussies, a couple of Kiwis, people from the Commonwealth. So a mix of other adventurous kind of guys.
So do you know Cassidy Little?
I think I met him briefly in training, but didn't serve with him after that.
Yeah, because he's obviously fellow Canadian.
Yep.
And Andy Bradshaw, is that a name you've ever come across?
No.
He was actually born here in Grimsby, and he lived most of his life in Canada. He joined the same time, or round about the same time I was in, and we were really good friends. And he got shot dead in Mosul as a security guard.
Okay.
Quite a shock that was to hear.
Yeah, but
how did you end up joining the Marines?
yeah, I was just looking for something to do, something adventurous. I knew the military was something that I wanted to do. So my mom actually gave me a movie, I read a book on World War II about the commandos. I think it was 4-1 Commando. I was always reading a lot of different books. And so I looked a little bit more into them because I didn't know anything about them, and saw that I could join the British military. Looked at my options for that and saw, you can do the Marines. Well, I'm going to head in that direction and see what I can do. So ended up coming over for the PRMC, past that, and then I had to go back to Canada, wait 5-6 months for my security clearance to come, and that was in 2005. And then towards the end of 2005, I went across and joined.
Wow! And how was it your first time in England?
Yeah, it was my first time in England coming across, and I remember coming into London, and I remember one of the first things that I thought was, how are more people not getting shot here? Because everyone was so packed in on the tube, and it was just hustle and bustle everywhere. And I was always in kind of small towns, a little bit rural areas, just wide open spaces. And I was just like, this is absolutely mental. All the accents like we were speaking about earlier, it was just wild. So all of that was a shock to the system. And then, getting into the culture of the Corps, which has its own unique culture and life of its own, as well as all the different cultures from
Josh,
throughout the UK.
Can I just say, sorry to interrupt, but something is rustling on the desktop or something?
Oh, sorry. Is that a little better?
That was the noise, yeah. It's just that people listening through their headphones will they'll want to kill us.
Gotcha.
We're commandos, so they're not going to have an awful lot of luck.
Not gonna, yeah. No
unless they're good at fighting, and then they probably will.
That's it. Okay.
And it's really interesting because, to me, the word bootneck conjures up these hairy-ass British men.
Yeah.
And of course, you're in that family now, which it's bootneck is not a term. Canadian doesn't, Canada doesn't instantly come to mind. It's you're quite alone over there.
Yes, I am. Very much so, especially when I'm sure we'll get into it. When I came back to Canada, I was completely alone, probably if I put it on my CV or my resume, they'd be like, Royal Marines, what's this? Like not a clue sort of thing, but I've enjoyed it being alone kind of thing. Yeah.
So what about the Mounties then? Why are they so famous in Canada?
It's just like quite an elite police force within Canada, sort of a federal police force. And they have quite a steep history, as it were, within Canada. So that's kind of where they kind of get their mystique from. And they are quite good at what they do. And they do a wide variety of things. So
do they still ride horses, or is that just...
Yeah, no, it's a thing. It's more ceremonial, that sort of a thing. But yeah, they still do parades with horses and wear the red sash and the big hat and all that sort of stuff.
So obviously, I've got to ask you, how was it landing in what was called foundation when you joined? It was called induction when I joined.
Yeah,
I think they thought brainwashing was a bit too strong a term, so they called it induction instead.
yeah.
Induced into the art of killing other people.
Yeah, it was a shock to the shock to the system. I was pretty thick and pretty naive as to what was fully going on. So I took a few beastings to get me in the mindset, as it were. But once I rolled, got into the flow of things, I really started enjoying it.
How old were you?
19.
Yeah.
So I did the PRMC when I was 18, and then 19 when I started training.
So when you came over to do the PRMC, did you stay with people here, or?
Yes, I actually had some friends of our family lived in High Wycombe. So I kind of went back and forth, and I was in the UK maybe for 3-4 weeks in total, doing all the recruiting process and all of that.
And did you have to find the money for those four flights?
Yeah, I did. Yeah, I had to do all that myself. I was working at the time and saved all that money up and kind of made the plan of how I was going to pull off this big dream of mine, sort of thing, and organized all that. So
I had to just jump on the train here where I live. Pay would have been about £7 for a ticket for a return. I'm in and out I'm up there in 30 minutes or something. And
yeah.
You've got to come across oceans.
Yeah.
Mm.
So yeah,
big culture shock then.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, big culture shock. Everything was brand new, not just, the core, as it were, that introduction, but introduction to Britain and its way of life and all of that was completely new. So, but it was I was on a big adventure, right? So it was just fun, wide-eyed at every turn, really.
Was it a shock to find British men are so big and handsome?
Yeah, yeah.
He said that, enough said.
It was no, I won't go down. I gotta behave.
What year was it?
2005 came across.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yes, makes my joining up seem like so long ago.
Yeah.
I don't think the core doesn't seem to change a lot though, does it? It's
probably not. No.
I think it's got softer just from the perspective that young people are a bit nicer now. I maybe I've got that. I mean, there were some quite odd nut types when you
there was when I was in. and in training as well as outside of training, just interaction with the lads or whatever. Some of them were, you could tell they were genuinely pretty hard, and then, but I mean, you get that kind of in all walks of life, right? Sort of thing. So
yeah, it's an interesting one because the guys you join the Marines with, generally speaking, you meet an awful lot of nice guys.
Yeah.
And it's more that we joined for the adventure. I don't think any of us joined to kill people. I don't think that's it. I think we just saw it as a real adventure, as a chance to prove ourselves at something and, do something with our lives, and one hell of a challenge and that kind of thing. And I almost feel for people that then get sent into combat and then by definition are forced to do these extreme acts because they're just nice guys, people listening, you'll either understand what I'm saying or you're not, and I apologize if I can't explain it very well, but I look at you, Josh, you don't come across as like some almost sociopathic killer.
Yeah, no, I think, you get the guys that are very adventurous, probably very patriotic, type guys. And I think if you were, psychotic, as it were, sociopath or whatever, you probably wouldn't put yourself through, quite difficult training, type thing. You'd probably just find another way to go do those acts that you want to do, as it were. And, definitely in my time when I joined, like 2005, I don't think anyone was under any illusions of where they were going to be going, especially if they went to join the Marines. We knew you were either going to Afghan or Iraq pretty much straight away or shortly after you pass out of training. So, and during that time in training, you're hearing of people being killed. Most of my training team had either been to Iraq or Afghanistan, or both deployed in both places, as well as the Northern Islands and Kosovo and that sort of thing. So it was pretty...
I bet some of them were having to disappear off to funerals, weren't they?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, some of that was going on as well. So it was the reality was there pretty straight away. We were told right away, like, you finish training here, you will be deploying, no matter what, sort of thing. So we knew what was coming down the pipe for us.
Yeah, when I was in training, I kind of had it in my head. I wanted 4-2 Commando. It happened to be near where I lived, but I think the main reason I wanted it is I knew they were going to Northern Ireland, and that if I was going to be in the Marines, I wanted to see some form of combat, some kind of active service, and at least if I got it done in my first year of being in a commander unit, it was kind of done then. I suppose I had a sort of juvenile or naive fear of missing out. So
yeah, and there is that, and you do put yourself through this training, and it is quite arduous. It's long, so it's like, well, I want to test myself, right, sort of thing. Yeah. And for me, I came from Canada, and I did want to see if I could, complete this long training, and then I also wanted to test myself on operations, and that sort of thing, So that's kind of where I was coming from. For part of my reasoning, along with the adventurous aspect of it.
I think that's admirable if you wanted to test yourself. For me, it was never really about testing myself. It was about, maybe this sounds really bad, but just being able to say I've been in conflict.
Yeah, no,
I wasn't, I didn't sort of have any qualms that I'd be able to operate okay. I used to just take things at face value as a kid, and just go and do them. And I probably didn't think as much then as I do now.
Yeah. Well, you're younger, life experience is a little less, as it were. But yeah.
So do you want to talk about training, or would you like to talk about Afghanistan, or
we can just take it in a kind of linear fashion if you want.
Yeah,
whatever.
That's the best way.
Yeah, so I did enjoy training. Got injured kind of halfway through. It took me a little longer to finish, which was fine. Just stuck it out. Enjoyed the latter half of training. Kind of the more robust fitness of bottom field, the commando test, being in the field, yomping, all that stuff, the sort of soldiering aspect and learning those skills, stalking, doing recce's, that sort of thing, section attacks. I love that, got a good kick out of it, being really drained and tired and trying to push myself through the exercises. Finished training and I went up to Faz Lane. That was my first draft. So Fleet Protection Group, Royal Marines, and I was up there for almost 2 years. It was my first draft in there.
What did you do in that draft, Josh?
So they do a couple things when I was there. I'm sure it's probably changed a few times from the time I left, but we did the protection of the UK's nuclear deterrent. So there are nuclear submarines, as well as some of the other stuff that they house there. And at the time, maybe they still do it, I don't know. They did all the boarding parties as well for anti-piracy operations. So we would go behind the wire on rotation of 5 weeks behind the wire. So basically just glorified sentry position sort of thing, a lot of boredom, but a lot of fun. And then we would also go on a lot of exercises. So in that aspect, I was quite fortunate. Got to go to the States a whole bunch of times, the jungle. And I was also was really fortunate to be around some amazing guys who had a lot of experience. And they just passed on that knowledge. I was just able to soak it up. Along with a lot of the other guys that I was working with as well that were young, like myself. So, a lot of, I would say, mentoring, a real mentoring aspect to what we were doing there. So I was really, really fortunate to kind of grow and learn, as well as, just having fun like bootnecks do, type thing.
And lots of alcohol, no doubt.
Yeah, there was a lot of alcohol at that time in my life.
What's British alcohol culture like, or even Marines alcohol culture compared to Canada?
10 times worse. Yeah, Canada's doesn't really have a big drinking culture. It does in little pockets depending where you live and sort of the industries that you work in. Probably guys on the oil rigs, farmers, ranchers, that's going to have more of a drinking culture than, just guys in a city or whatever. There's not that pub culture like there is in the UK.
You have that kind of like fizzy light beer as well, don't you?
Yeah, there is. Yeah, not like the heavy lagers.
It's okay. I mean, what's the name of the popular beer over there? Used to come in a blue can.
Kokanee, Coors Light, Molson. I don't know. I don't drink anymore, so I don't.
Okay, no, I
don't even know.
It's only that I travelled. I travelled in Canada, and when I was quite young, and I just remember we drank a lot of this particular Pabst Blue Ribbon. No, actually.
I think that's American.
It's kind of irrelevant. I just wanted that blast from the past, but
Gotcha.
Yeah, drinking culture. Did you have a commando test that was your nemesis?
Not really. I think I dangled on all of them kind of thing, but I remember like halfway, maybe through the 30 miler, for probably not that long, I started dangling a bit and then kind of got my second win halfway through. At least that's how I remember it. Somebody else would probably remember it. Oh no, he was hanging out the whole time. And then maybe the Tarzan. I did enjoy like the first half of it, through the high obstacles and all that. Like I really like that sort of thing. And then when you dip down into the bottom field, my lungs were blowing out then, lungs and legs.
I don't think you were alone, Josh.
probably most of the lads. Yeah. But endurance I didn't find that too bad. And the 9 mile speed marks, that was pretty easy. You're pretty fit. And
how tall are you?
Yeah, I'm 6'3".
Wow.
Well, pretty tall and lanky. So.
Did you find pull-ups okay?
Yeah, I was all right at pull-ups. I was a climber, a bit of a rock climber beforehand. Pull-ups were all right. Rope climbs were all right. I enjoyed that. Even with the weight, that was fine. Running, I was a pretty horrible runner kind of early on in my career. Definitely in training I was. But yomping, I was all right at yomping. I was fine with that. Probably the long legs.
Yeah, it pays to have long legs.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. So how did you, which unit did you go to Afghanistan with?
So after FPG, I actually went to SFSG.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I went down there maybe towards the end of 2008 sort of thing.
Is there some kind of selection for that or tests to get in?
Yeah, I don't know what it's like now, but we just had sort of like a bit of a selection, not like the UKSF selection, nothing like that. It was just when I did it, it was open to all of the Corps. And it was just basically doing all the basics, making sure you did all the basics kind of exceptionally well. So your navigation, all your weapon systems, shooting, bit of command and control, leadership, as well as a lot of written tests, sort of thing, your military knowledge, and that sort of stuff. I think it was a couple of weeks, something like that.
And what's the kind of mindset then? What kind of guys, because this, I find myself talking a lot more about this special forces support group quite a lot lately, and I don't know if you saw my podcast with Dave Radband.
Okay, yeah. No, I don't know him though.
Yeah, he's he kind of opened my eyes up to a lot of the job role.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a kind of personality that goes for that role?
I think maybe more, and I could be totally wrong, just my opinion, maybe someone who's a little bit more proactive in what they want to do in the Corps, kind of seeking out more of a, wanting to do more of a specialist role, learn more, because you do a lot of learning there. You're taking a lot of courses and this sort of thing. You're operating in a lot of different environments and different roles. So, maybe that sort of a guy that wants to test himself, put himself up against it, and a guy that probably wants to, operate, because it is a very, very busy place. So that sort of thing. You go there knowing, yeah, I'm going on ops. They're going to be they're going to be pretty kinetic, pretty different. Fighting's fighting, but there's going to be a lot of it, sort of thing.
Where did you say they were based?
Yeah, so they're based down in Wales.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that so that they're near the regiment, or is that nothing to do with it?
Yeah, it might be. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure. Probably it's close proximity to Brecon, sort of thing. That training area, a lot of ranges there and different things.
Wales is quite unique because it's the only place in the world where everywhere is uphill.
Yeah. I really enjoyed living down in Wales. I found the people really nice. Cardiff was a really nice city. It was small, had a lot of its unique culture, and getting out in the hills and stuff was really nice as well. Pretty beautiful, and it was wet like the rest of Britain. So
did you get to meet many SAS and SBS operators?
Yeah, you interact with them in different capacities, sort of thing. And I did a bit of work with them, not too much, because we did a lot of our own ops as well, sort of thing. So that was a quite a unique experience, seeing a bit of that world, being able to work with them, but also on ops, being able to work with the wider Green Army, as it were, different regiments, different units as well. So, I wasn't just in the Corps, as it was, and working with just Marines, but being able to work and see the whole picture, or get a better grasp of the whole picture of what's going on. So that I really enjoyed that.
Is there any kind of elitism between the two groups there?
Which two groups?
What I'm trying to say is do you ever get looked down upon because you've not done selection, or is it? I'm guessing you don't, but I just wanted to ask the question.
No. No, I never had anything like that at all. They, from what I gathered from it was just like, hey, you're here to do a role, get it done, sort of thing, or, we're doing our thing. It's two separate entities, sort of thing, sometimes coming together.
And who can join the SFSG?
At the time, I don't know about now, but at the time it was Royal Marines and Paras. We also had some guys from the RAF Reg there, so some RAF Reg gunners, and then the JTACs, so the guys that speak to the aircraft and control the airspace, so they can call in fire from either attack helicopters or fast movers, so the jets, A-10s, whatever, as well as, getting like a feed from a Predator or whatever sort of thing.
What's the Predator?
So it's just a drone. And that can give a feed from a camera or put munitions onto a target. How is the troop or the company set out in the SFSG? Like a regular unit. You have your support companies, so mortars, heavy weapons, sniper cell, and then you have your fighting companies, sort of thing. So that's how that works. It works just like a regular fighting unit. So like a 40 Commando, 4-2, 4-5, or whatever.
How is it with the different kind of language between Paras and Marines, and the different culture, them being Army and us being Navy, obviously?
Well, being down there, those guys work. We've worked together so much. We had Paras attached to us, and our guys would be attached to some of the para companies, and now they're, I guess, blended together. But yeah, it was just same job, same roles. There's banter all the time, but no animosity, because you're working together, you're doing the same job, and pretty much you're doing same sort of stuff.
I'm guessing you don't do a lot of kind of drill and marching. There's a degree of informality, But when you do have to kind of stand to attention or whatever, do you both do your different drill?
I never did any drill down there type thing.
Do
I
they
would just
say up to attention that way?
Yeah. I don't even know. I couldn't march for shit anyway. But yeah, it was just we just kind of winged it, I guess, sort of thing.
Okay. It's kind of in its infancy, isn't it? I just wonder if you had to go, say, to see the CO, do the Army do their drill and the Marines do theirs? Because it's not massively different, but they do that, you know, they raise their knees a lot and
and a little bit more vocal in their sirs and stuff like that. Yeah. No, I remember I had to like stand at attention and stuff, and I just cracked my own sort of thing, and nothing was said.
Gosh.
Yeah.
And did you go on many active operations, or was it just Afghanistan?
Yeah, so I just went to Afghanistan. I went there in 2010. 2010.
It's very interesting that we can have this conversation. It's quite pertinent to me now because I had somebody cropped up on one of my videos in the comments section, and they wrote a comment which I'm not quick to dismiss people, right? If you want to have a dialogue, that's, you know, that's fine. So long as you're polite and you're respectful, that's, you know, I think everyone's got the right to question things. And this person was mentioning some pretty horrific acts that had been undertaken. This person, I don't know whether it's male or female, said it was the SAS, right? So I said, sorry, could you expand on that? Because obviously there's lots of people in the SAS, there's several SASs all around the world. And she said, I'm guessing it was a girl, I don't know why, but they sent a link. And so I clicked on the link and it took me to this YouTube video. And it was an expose that's been done in Australia on the Australian SAS's behavior in Afghanistan.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, pretty fucking appalling, to be honest.
Okay.
You know, we're talking like, executions, shooting people's dogs just because they could shoot them. Even like dogs that were chained up that didn't pose any threat. And I state here and now, I only saw what I saw in the video, and it's there in the video. It's quite, and they've got all the head cam footage. I don't know how that this TV program got hold of it, but somebody has obviously felt the need to. Somebody within the unit felt the need to expose this behavior, and and there's basically three characters that these allegations center on, and all three just seemed to be over that line we mentioned earlier of sociopath, you know. And I know I've been in conflict. I know what my own experience was, and I know that it's not, people don't always behave in the most perfect way. People get carried away, people get bloodlust, people get, people cross the line, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Did you experience anything like this?
No, you'd see like obviously brutality, you know, the nature of war, especially in a very, very busy operational place, such as like the roles I was doing. But no, I never saw anyone step out of line, get out of hand, as it were.
Yeah, I should add, I'm only asking because I've got the opportunity to ask, right? You know, it's not every day. It's not every day I meet someone who's been in your position. Well, actually, it is at the moment, but it's just I'm very big for peace. You know, I'm a huge pacifist. I think all war is constructed, and I think there's enough evidence for that if you're willing to look. Mm-hmm. And I saw Ben Griffin do a speech once. So he's this former SAS man, and he said he got his suspicions up in the Middle East. I think it was Iraq he was originally, where they'd go out on these missions every night. The Brits would come back having not found their target. You know, their targets either turned out not to be targets or they didn't find them, and the Americans would come back in the morning having shot X amount of people dead. And his question was like, hang on, who are they shooting? And I think I think the answer to that question is probably quite straightforward. I think they were taking the chance to just get a kill when they could get a kill, and they weren't being, you know, strictly operating by the rules of engagement. This is,
you know, when I was there, like, the rules of engagements were pretty strict, pretty clear down the flipping line, you know, like, so yeah, we had to operate just like everyone else. Sometimes our rules of engagement would change depending on where we were going, sort of thing. And sometimes some of the areas I was operating in, it was just straight up Taliban there. You know, there was nothing else going on, but, you know, like no IEDs, just straight up old school gunfighting sort of thing, you know. And then other times it was interacting with the local population and this sort of a thing. And I can, you know, I see your point about, you know, being, you know, all for peace, and maybe what that Ben Griffin guy was saying. And, you know, I've been torn as well between wars and this sort of a thing, and, you know, my mind's shifting and just thinking things through. You know, now it's been 10 years or whatever since I've been there, been on ops, and you know, one of the things I think about though is like, yeah, maybe we could have, should have, maybe not have been there, but at the end of the day, you know, they were an absolute brutal enemy, brutalizing local population of people that just wanted to farm, live their lives with their family, grow their family in pretty appalling medieval conditions. And, you know, I witnessed a lot of that as well, brutality towards the local population who are torn between us or the Taliban, or, you know, trying to better their lives and just not getting any respite from a pretty brutal enemy, savage sort of thing. So,
yeah, I had a fellow Marine, you know, one of our oppos on the podcast the other day, who said he was in a compound, or in a, you know, a farmer's sort of compound, and they were talking to the farmer, and they heard the Taliban saying over the radio, right, when the Brits have gone, we're going to pay the farmer a visit, which the guy just broke down, and it must just have been terrifying. I guess the question is, that's the conundrum, isn't it? Because, you know, it'd be lovely, wouldn't it, if we went in there because it was because of the Taliban's brutality, and that's when you say, you know, when you know the people, it's not just George Bush and his crime family. It's people way higher than that control the Bush, you know, control the American president, and I kind of can't ever believe that their motives were about you know, about the Taliban. I think I'd have to be very naive. I think you have to be quite naive to believe that it's about democracy and freedom.
Yeah, like, I mean, you're not spreading democracy to a tribal tribal area, that's just not what they want. So why would you give it to them as such, But for me on the ground, just my interactions with the locals and seeing what these people were, the Taliban, what they were doing, it was like, okay, this is what I've got to deal with right here, right now, what I've got to live with for the rest of my life, seeing the effects of whatever. So that's how I could see it and kind of get on with my reasoning for, I guess, operating as such, and in the same breath, like, there is a definite threat to us here, whatever it may be, from whatever kind of state actors or groups. So I think it's maybe a bit of a line here and there, but I get what you're saying.
Mm-hmm. I just want, it's like a lot of young people look up to me, Josh.
Yeah.
And I can't be.
Yeah. You got to
not telling them my truth, because they might.
Oh.
A lot of them are going to join the Marines, and if they get their legs, blown off next year, I don't want them coming back to me and saying, "Why the fuck did you set? Why did you send me out there? Why do you?" And it's
you can't be like, yeah, it's great. It's rosy and it's the world's a perfectly defined right and wrong sort of, or whatever.
It's just such an irony. The Marines is such a great career to have as a young man. It undoubtedly okay, there's aspects of it like the 70% of the time you're really bored or you're not doing anything, or you're wishing that you could go home for the weekend and instead you're being put on some terribly tedious guard duty, and we know all of that, but that's just part of it. As a young man, it's a very proud thing to do. You were great, for the most part, a great bunch of guys. You wear the green beret and it's cool, it's just that the roles that they've been put into, that the Marines have been sent to do, it's not right, it's just that's it. So I guess what I'm trying to say is this is nothing against our wonderful armed forces. This is against these psychopaths that are in control of us, that that play the whole globe like a game of a one-sided game of chess. So can you tell us a bit, what were your experiences there?
I got to work all throughout mainly Helmand province, and I had just a huge variety of different roles that I got to do. So I was really fortunate within that. I wasn't just stuck at one sort of patrol base area and just going out on foot patrol here and there. So I was quite lucky in that. Some of the things I did was mobility operations, so working directly out of vehicles, pushing way out into the open desert, living out of those vehicles for kind of months at a time sometimes, or a month or so at a time, working in urban areas, doing kind of direct action kind of raids as a sort of, as well as rural built up areas as well. I got to mentor small team of our Afghan counterparts in a kind of small kind of recce role, reconnaissance role with them, as well as working in a sniper team. I wasn't a sniper, but they needed a number two, so a spotter, to work with one of our guys. And I did a few courses that were leading me down that kind of path anyway. So I got to, got a huge circle and viewpoint of lots of different stuff. So I really, really enjoyed that.
Well, I just wanted to ask, what's it like to work alongside a sniper then? Are these guys as good as we're led to believe?
Yeah, you can't even see them snorkeling through the grass. Yeah, no, really good. Switched on. It's I guess you could say maybe like the purest form of soldiering type thing. You know, and I was really fortunate to be working with some really talented, experienced people, both from Para-Reg, RAF, and from the Corps, as well as guys, like myself, that was their first tour. So they're either young in the Corps or really young in in age, and just being able to look up to all those guys as they pretty much step up to the plate and take on a huge amount of responsibility, a lot of forward thinking, and really proactive in their job. So that was absolutely incredible to witness and be part of.
Can you tell us about the actual mechanics of a sniper shot then? Did you see any, shots in, one shot in a million or something?
No, nothing. No one shots in a million. But, we do, take stuff like a wind reading for the guy as he's moving in onto a target sort of thing. Have a little laser range finder to get the distance for him. And then I'd be working as his protection, or, following up a shot or doing two shots at once or whatever onto two different targets sort of thing, as we overwatched as a patrol moved into an area, or, as they leave, we kind of stay behind and, make sure there's no follow-up, as well as doing, moving through the night onto sort of a recce, going into an OP, that sort of thing. So a little observation post type thing.
Did you see many follow-ups then, or people?
Yeah, we definitely did. Some of the areas we were working in were heavy with enemy. So, we watched them doing their kind of sentry positions, move about at night. And we're watching this all unfold through our night vision. As well as in the day, we watch guys as our patrol withdraws, watch them trying to move in and set up with weapon systems. So, and then we just kind of deal with it then.
Did you have to radio through for permission to shoot, or was that put down to you?
Yeah, that was put down to us, but we would also, let the boss know what was going on. So, they're just not hearing a gunshot or whatever, right? We'd feed back all the information so everybody knows what's happening on the ground, that yes, the enemy is moving, it is setting up, where they're coming from, and then the boss can decide what he wants to do and how he wants it to play out, sort of thing.
Is that, I'm just thinking back to my own service. I guess it's just the job, isn't it, at the time?
Mm-hmm.
Has that had an effect on you?
I would say kind of yes and no kind of thing. I do think about it, you can't go down the rabbit hole, but you do just see it as a job. And the way that I've kind of thought about it, I guess, is, kind of big boys rules, it's a big boys playground. They're there to scrap. I'm there to scrap, type thing. So, can be a bit of a nasty business, obviously, but nature of the job,
Yeah, of course.
And kind of like I speak to people now, sort of my whole story, which we'll keep going through. But, I kind of talk about it as, these sort of things as just kind of tapping into this surreal and primal states of being, because it is quite primal, it's kill or be killed. You don't have to worry about anything else, just this job that you're in. That's kind of quite primal. It's pretty black and white, right? And then, still within the surreal aspect of it is, the fighting, the intensity of it, and how calm you can be within all of that chaos, where you can make pretty clear, calculated decisions when it's like it is insanity, and you can step back from those situations, make that choice, and then go to it, do what you need to do, relay information, So yeah, was an interesting time.
Yeah, I mean, I guess irregardless of the politics of the situation, this Taliban are not. They're not very nice people, are they?
Yeah, no, not at all.
Are they nice to anyone? I mean, do the villagers? Do they all hate them, or do they just? Is it a hand in glove relationship?
Sometimes when I would be able to speak through our interpreters with villagers, and you could tell that they genuinely just hated them. They just wanted to get on with their life. They just wanted to be left alone. They wanted them out of the area, type thing.
Could you just for our, for all I was going to say our younger friends, but could you just explain who are the Taliban?
Absolute lunatics, pushing. They just wanted to push their ideology. If that stems from a religious aspect or a political one, you probably go down that rabbit hole.
Are they extreme? There is Islamist extremist, right?
Yeah, you could say that.
Fundamentalists.
Very fundamentalist and very old school ideology. Other than that, really, I don't really know much. I wouldn't want to say type thing. Just fundamentalist.
Did you find? Did you go against? Did you find yourself accidentally going against the culture there, and because it's very different, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It is very, very different. But I mean, people are people, wherever you are, and a lot of them were just genuinely friendly. Even with the language barrier, you could tell that they were genuinely smiling, laughing with you, having a joke, whether they're an old man, a woman, kid, whatever. You could sit down and still, break bread with them or eat some grapes or whatever and kind of joke around, whether that's the guys you were working with, which were local nationals or local population sort of thing.
And what base were you operating out of?
I worked all over sort of thing. So I worked out of Bastion, Kandahar, Lashkar, and then PBs and checkpoints and other FOBs all throughout, or just straight out of the open desert.
And did you have a kind of like a sleeping kit that you just put on your back and humped to wherever you were going next?
Yeah, I was there in the summer, so I was pretty much just sleeping in my clothes, sort of thing. So yeah, I didn't really have anything. When I moved around on the ground, like I pretty much just had a light little set of body armor, sometimes like a little backpack, day sack or whatever, or a little Claymore bag that I had extra magazines in and that sort of thing, a little bit of food, and that was pretty much it, just so I could run around pretty quick.
Did you have a cooker?
Yeah, out of the vehicle, when we were living out of the vehicles and stuff like that, I would have a cooker and that sort of thing, yeah. But I didn't carry any of that stuff around. Can
you tell us what weapons you used?
Yeah, I used a variety, G3, 417, C8, little small carbine, pistols, 66, which is like a shoulder rocket sort of thing. We had javelins, 50 cals, GMGs, so 40 mil grenade launchers off of vehicles. So just huge variety of everything.
What was your rifle? Sorry.
I had a G3 or 417. Sorry.
Who make them?
Heckler and Koch.
Okay.
HK, yeah.
Yeah, when I was talking to Dave, he mentioned a 7.62 Heckler and Koch. Is that the one?
Yeah, that'd probably be the one. Yeah.
God, I
Yeah.
bet that's one hell of a weapon.
Yeah, it's good. You can push out a decent distance with it.
Yeah.
You know, it's small enough you could clear rooms with or work in kind of confined spaces sort of thing. So it was good.
So how many firefights were you involved in?
Flipping, I have no idea. A ton.
Yeah.
You know, hundreds maybe.
And
I don't know.
I mean, the ones that you see that I've seen in the TV documentaries, they seem kind of sporadic, as in, yes, I mean, it's a firefight, but the enemy seem to be quite some distance away and almost firing pot shots kind of thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, if a pot shot hits you, it's gonna take your head off.
Yeah.
But I mean, was there much close quarter stuff?
Yeah. So we would have stuff that was quite sporadic, you know, just kind of guys just shooting and scooting around, moving around, maybe a couple fighters moving around or whoever. And then, yeah, we had close stuff, like really, really flipping close. I mean, almost point blank sort of stuff, you know, as well as, you know, you're full on all throughout the day, moving and maneuvering around the battle space, you know, tree line to tree line, you know, compound to compound sort of stuff.
How does the Taliban even get to move around when you've got drones in the sky that can see where they are? I mean, as long as there's cloud cover, of course.
Yeah, and we didn't always have the use of drones as well, but they can move through tree lines, quite thick tree lines, and then in the green zone, I don't know what the overhead view down would be like, but I would imagine because it's so thick in there, it's like this is along the Helmand River, and a lot of the farming and irrigation areas were so overgrown. I remember going through some areas and it was like the jungle. It was so thick, you know, 10-foot high cornfields and thick, overgrown, everything. So I would imagine it would be difficult to see anyone moving around. And, you know, it's their backyard. They've got it all set up, you know. They know where to go, how to move around. You know, they might just drop off weapons and then blend in with the local population and then have somebody pick up those weapons and move them somewhere else to another firing point, or they've already got them set up, sort of thing.
Did you lose many guys?
We lost one guy through an IED. So we were very, very lucky in that aspect. So, and I think maybe that might have been down to us, you know, moving around quite a lot in a lot of different areas, sort of thing, where, you know, if you're working out of the same kind of area or patrol base or whatever, and you're kind of trying not to have a set a pattern of life or a patrol pattern and stuff, you know, that's going to be quite hard in a limited area. So in that aspect, you know, I'm kind of thankful that I didn't do a tour like that, because that would have been really hard. And, you know, being only in those areas, you know, seeing those guys work so hard, you know, hats off to them. Definitely, you know, having to go out every day, you know, and they know that there's a huge IED threat and they've lost, you know, a handful of mates or, you know, sort of thing. Like, man, that would have been tough.
Yeah, it's yeah, I've heard it referred to as hopscotch in a minefield, but it's very real, isn't it? I mean, you're going out on patrol and people are getting blown up. I mean, it's all very, very real, and that puts you in a very heightened state of alert all the time. So it's just very, very stressful
Yeah.
Job.
You know, we had strikes on vehicles and stuff, and no one got injured, and so really lucky.
What we just to sort of, maybe, I don't know if you want to close on Afghanistan now, but what was your kind of most horrendous moment there, or most action-packed moment? Is there anything?
Yeah, I had a few. A lot of those memories now have kind of blended all into one or two, you know, just things. But you know, stuff like you know, leading like a group of 5 or 6 Afghans, you know, through the night, through a cornfield under night vision, you know, and you've got other teams of guys moving onto a target, you know, 100 meters on either side of you or behind you, and you're kind of working your way. You know, that's a little bit hairy sometimes. When I remember going down this ditch, actually it was like a little crossing point. It was quite steep, and I remember just taking a knee at the top of this ditch, watching the guys go down and making sure they were going the right way. And one guy went one way and the other guy went the other way, and I was just like, oh my goodness, you know. And the rest of them go down, and the other guy hadn't come back yet, and it was my turn. You know, I was at the end, and I was just kind of waiting there, like, okay, where are these guys going? Where's this guy going? And you know, eventually he came running back, and you know, not too hairy, but kind of like, oh, flipping hell, you know, this is what I got to deal with. Some pretty intense scraps, you know. Just love, you know, to be honest, I loved it, you know. It was good, you know. I remember, you know, standing on rooftops and just getting sprayed all around me, and hammering tree lines, you know, like less than 100 meters away, and you can see multiple firing points and stuff like that. That was good.
It's like in one respect, it's like a big adult game of playing soldiers, isn't it? I mean, so it's the video clip that Ben sent me the other day of them. They're being contacted as they're getting on the chopper, you know. So exfil, is that the word, when you're taken out of a, you know, they're exfiltrating, and they're under fire from the Taliban, and his head cam's running, and they crash in this chopper, get into their seats, and they're all laughing their asses off, you know.
Yeah, it's surreal. Yeah, it's weird.
They're all laughing like, wow, that was fun. That was hairy, but that was fun. And of course, the other side of the coin is, one of you gets winged, dead. Yeah. Suddenly, it's really not. You know,
the game changes right away.
Yeah. This clash of emotions, and
it is, you know, and I found it quite odd how quickly, for me, and it seemed like a lot of other guys it was their first time, how just quickly you adapt to these situations, you know, for the first time being shot or whatever, how professional they are, how quickly they just move into what they need to do, and how calmly they do it, you know, how they're able to take command and control of themselves, but also the situation around them, you know, and continue to do that throughout a full day of scrapping continuously.
What rank did you get to, Josh?
I was a Marine. Marine, you know. So it was enjoyable to see that. I guess technically speaking, you should be calling me Lance Corporal. Lance Corporal.
In the Marines, that's just we don't say Lance Corporal, it's just Corporal. But I'm going to let you off just for the
just today. Yeah, man. So it was it was a good experience.
How much ammo did you carry? Because it sounds like you needed a lot.
Yeah, it changed all the time depending where we were going and what we were doing, and we'd carry lots of extra. Some guys would carry extra. I don't know, several magazines, sort of thing.
So maybe what, a couple of 100 rounds?
Yeah, something like that. Sometimes I would carry little like UGL, so a 40 mil grenade launcher. I would just have that on a bungee strapped to me, so not actually on my rifle. And I'd have a bunch of bombs just in the little Claymore bag, so I could crack those off as well, sort of thing. But I just wanted to stay nice and light, so I could, we had the ability to do that, not have to carry lots of extra equipment, so we could move around quite quickly, handful of grenade or a couple grenades or whatever as well.
God, that all just takes it to a whole nother level again, doesn't it? I mean, when we were in Ireland, we were contacted a few times. Never saw a fire. The 2 times we were sniped at, we never saw a firing point. So you can't, if you can't see where you're being shot from, you can't fire back. But you guys in a situation where not only can you see the firing point and so you're returning fire, but then you're chucking a rocket down the chute and firing it and then watching shit explode and with your fingers crossed that hopefully there's people exploding in.
Yeah, man, I remember, one day we moved into a kind of like a Taliban bed down location. The patrol was all broken up, right? Like each little group doing their own task, whatever it was. I remember they found like an IED factory full of pressure plates, all the building materials, mortars, and all this stuff, and we blew that thing up. And as soon as we blew up their stockpile, it all went crazy. We had a bunch of prisoners as well from a SURE that took place, so a meeting with the locals, and as soon as we blew that thing up, it just went to hell really quick. And it was a full day of scrapping, constantly moving, trying to outmaneuver them, and they were trying to outmaneuver us on the ground. And you could tell that they were squared away the way they were moving around the battle space. And we had A-10s coming in doing gun runs multiple times. I remember running through a cornfield, and it was just like I could almost see like where time sort of slows down, and in front of me it just getting like strafed with whatever automatic weapon fire and this sort of stuff, and coming around the corner, and all the lads there kind of just getting down to business, doing what they needed to do, and things like that. It's kind of fun.
Yeah, well, it's one hell of an experience, that's for sure.
Yeah.
It's like you're not going to get that in England, are you, or in Canada?
Yeah, no.
It's it's a full-on lads holiday, isn't it? Really?
Yeah. I got my money. I got my money's worth there. I got to experience quite a lot of different operations, different things. So,
and for our friends listening, Afghanistan's been in constant conflict for
forever,
for decades now, if not they say the Middle East has never seen peace and it never will. Bit pessimistic, but so we had the Russians in Afghanistan, right?
Yeah, the English were there before, probably people before,
Yeah.
It's Alexander the Great. I don't know, I can't remember. And the Russians were there in the 80s.
And the whole kind of situation with the Russians was they had all their military might, Russia being a kind of super military power, who put a massive emphasis on their equipment and their troops. And of course, they're in this country fighting against villagers armed, predominantly armed with just the Kalashnikov and the odd rocket-propelled grenade. And, well, the Russians got their ass kicked, didn't they?
Yeah.
You know, and then the American, the American and their allies' effort. I mean, what has that all come to? Where are we now with that situation?
I haven't a clue. I know there's probably still a lot going on there. I'm sure a lot of, I don't know, a lot of blood and treasure lost, sort of thing, you know.
Yeah.
I'm sure some parts of the countries are secure sort of thing, but I haven't a clue.
Yeah. Well, I bet the opium harvest is secure.
Yeah.
Yeah, the CIA will have seen to that if history is anything to go by.
Yeah.
Where would you like to move on to, Josh?
Wherever. So I left. Sorry, go on.
Right, do you say did you leave the Marines for any reason?
Yeah, so I went to 40 afterwards for a bit, and then
you went to the jungle.
No, I just 40 Commando. So I got dropped. Sorry.
I thought you mentioned earlier that you'd been in the jungle.
Yeah, when I was at FPG, I went to the jungle, sort of thing.
Was that good?
Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that. Just pure soldiering in Belize. Went to Belize, yeah. So that was a good exercise. So yeah, man, I went to 40 after SFSG, and then I got out shortly after. I got into the security world, private security world. Yeah, I don't really know why I left. I probably should have stayed in. You know, I really enjoyed soldiering, type thing. But I just wanted another kind of adventure to see what was out there, what was going on. So I ended up living in South Africa, and I worked all over Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, and the oceans in between, doing the maritime security work, so the anti-piracy, as well as a couple other things. And I did that for three and a bit years, maybe, sort of thing.
Did you see much action doing the anti-piracy?
No, not really. You know, I could watch, you know, little skips smuggling, probably narcotics or contraband people as well from North Africa into the Middle East or vice versa. Nothing really to write home about, you know, sort of thing.
Were you involved at all with the guys that were taken, that were put in prison in, was it in India?
Yeah, I think it was in India, yeah. No, nothing to do with that. I don't really know much about that, but I just heard about that.
My friend Stu, very, very nice guy that I know, that I served with, he was on that ship as a private, you know, as a pirate hunter. And when they were kind of put under house arrest on the ship, a lot of the guys just went, fuck this, we're off. And they just jumped in the, you know, the little boats that come up to sell you bananas and stuff and all that kind of stuff. They just got in the boats and they, you know, they made their way back home. And of course, the hardcore that stayed on there got put in prison, and they had to really fight hard to get out, didn't they?
Yeah, I heard about that. Yeah,
I don't know. Apologies, I don't know the specifics. Just the rough story. But I think Stu, you don't want to spend time in a foreign prison. That's you don't want to spend time in any prison, but not a
yeah, definitely not. Yeah. So yeah, I enjoyed that work. You know, getting to travel all over the world. You know, it was pretty busy. Constant flights all over the place, going from one job to the next.
What were you paid and what were you armed with?
Sometimes I was armed, sometimes I wasn't. So I could either go from A to B on a vessel, or armed or unarmed, or do a circuit on their specific trade route, or I could fly to, say, Singapore and prepare the crew and vessel for their journey. And that could just be briefing the captain, the officers, of sort of the intelligence picture, the threat, the potential threat that they could face on their journey, as well as prepping the crew on what they need to do to kind of harden the vessel. So we'd make it nigh on impossible for anyone to board and access the ship. So we'd run rows and rows of razor wire around the outside, and we'd modify doors and hatches, sort of thing. We'd build a safe room so that if it did get boarded, there was somewhere that they could have. They were able to navigate. There was medical supplies, food, water, as well as communications to the outside world. We just had a regular kind of semi-automatic rifle. Can't remember what it was, 7.62. So that way, if it was a hunting rifle, that it could legally go throughout countries and we could move them around legally. So everything was above board. Maybe some companies did or didn't do that, or do that.
I've seen some real savage footage of pirates being shot in the water.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's plenty of footage on YouTube, obviously, but there's some that are just, well, they're just slow. I mean, I'm not taking sides or making any judgment call here. I'm just saying it how it is. They're slaughtering the guys in their skiffs as the skiffs sinking, and they're all laughing as they're doing it.
I never came across any of that, like, at all. Well, I never fired my weapon onto anyone. But I do remember, because you can hear all the communications between the different vessels, obviously on the bridge where you're standing and advising. And there was a vessel that was being taken at night by multiple skiffs. And they didn't have any security at all. And you could just hear the panic of what was going on. And there was no coalition warship or helicopter that could come in and help them out. Obviously, they were too far from us and we couldn't help them anyway, because we wouldn't want our vessel to go anywhere near that. So you knew that they were going to be taken to Somalia or wherever and held hostage and put up for ransom. But yeah, any of that sort of stuff, laughing at the killing of someone else, that's just bullshit.
Yeah, it's I don't want to say the people that were shooting these guys in the water were from a certain country, and I don't want to say it, not because I don't want to offend anyone from that country. It's just I'm not 100% sure in my mind, so it's best not name it. But it wasn't. They weren't British guys, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I got you.
It's just, it's one of those, nothing in life is simple, is it? As the older you get, you don't have that clear-cut Teutonic way of thinking that you have when you're 18, that there's good guys and there's bad guys. And you see these, what's the main country of piracy? Is it
Somalia is where these guys
are. Somali pirates, isn't it? Yeah, they're in the Gulf of Aden. So
yeah,
you see these people that they've got these ships that are literally carrying $1 billion worth of oil.
Yeah,
100 meters off their shore using their waterways, and they get literally zero for. I'm not trying to condone anything here before anyone gets upset. I'm just saying how it is, and
you can see their mentality or their justification for whatever.
This is the thing, isn't it? When you've got people that in the world that live in relative richness and people that live in abject abject poverty. You can see why they want to take these, I mean, it's bizarre, isn't it? They rock up in these tiny little, tiny little boats, relatively under, not particularly well armed, knowing that the ship that they're going to try to climb aboard with a ladder that they've basically roped, they've stuck a hook on the end, and they're going to, it's very basic stuff. And they do that in the knowledge that there could be a team of ex-military on board. They're going to point their weapons overboard and let them have it. It's But then, having said that, it as a deterrent, it worked, didn't it?
Yeah, and that's what we would do. Put those big rows of razor wire around the outside. We'd have hoses that we would turn on if there was a skiff coming towards, so that they could see, hey, they're protecting themselves. And we would also have different measures, threat escalation as it were. We would stand out there and present a weapon, which they would be able to see that, okay, someone's armed. Oh, there's 2 or 3 of them that are armed with a helmet and body armor. Like, we're just going to take off and we're going to wait for an easier target to come up, sort of thing. So yeah, I did that for a couple of years, and then came back to Canada, type thing. So yeah, I was living away from Canada for nearly 10 years sort of thing, and came back home, and it was a bit of a culture shock, living the life O'Reilly, maybe you could say, for a while.
You got to start living with Canadians. That's can't be easy.
Yeah, definitely not. My whole adult life was spent moving around, up until this point. And yeah, it was pretty difficult, kind of figuring out. And I had no clue what I was going to do either. I had no idea.
Can you clarify for us, what's the situation with Canada's military? I mean, in general, do they have a military? Is it volunteer? Is it national service? And were they involved in the Middle East?
Yes, they were. We got a military volunteer. They were in Afghanistan from right away, 2002, and I can't remember when they left. It would have been, maybe, I could be completely wrong, but it was maybe 2012 time, somewhere in that time frame. That's when they pulled out. We didn't go to Iraq the first time, in the 2003 sort of time frame. As far as I know, they've since been back there in the current conflict, Iraq. And that was just probably a small group of SF type guys, or advisors. What that role and capability was, I have no idea. It's quite a small military, relative to the size of our country and the people in it, but I really don't know much about them. But when I did come back, I actually had the intention of joining the Canadian Forces, and it just didn't pan out for me. I have no idea why they wouldn't take me. So probably a blessing in disguise, but who knows? But I kind of did also just want to get straight into my passion of climbing, which I started climbing when I was 16, on and off, and I did a bit here and there in the Corps. And I started doing a lot more of it when I was doing the security work, living out of Africa. I would go on trips all over the world and get into it. So I started climbing pretty much full time. So I was what they call a dirtbag climber. So I lived in the back of a vehicle. I had a small truck with a canopy on it, and I just traveled around, and I climbed as much as possible, summer and winter. And I managed to get up some of Canada's kind of best routes, maybe not their biggest.
What's your style of climbing?
So I did pretty much all styles. So your sort of traditional mountaineering, to technical mixed climbing. So that's where you have your ice tools and your crampons, so those spikes on the bottom of your boots. And you move between sections of rock and ice, balancing on tiny little ledges and twisting and torquing picks into the cracks, as well as just straight up ice climbing, waterfall ice, or other forms, whether it's a big hanging dagger of ice, whatever it is, as well as rock climbing. The style of rock climbing that I like to do was big wall free climbing. So crack climbing, putting in your own protection. So either tapered nuts to wedge in or a camming device. So you're putting in your own protection. There's not a designated kind of clip to clip into the rock on what would be a sport route sort of thing.
So free climbing, you can free climb, but you can take your own.
Oh, okay. So some people would hear free climbing and they would think of it as soloing without a rope. Is that what you were kind of thinking?
Yeah, no, it's just occurred to me with what you said that obviously you can just climb and have your chalk bag and that's it, right?
Yeah.
But then also you can have a few gadgets on you. So if you wanted to stop for a break, you can just clip something into the rock and just hold on there for a while. Or if you need to reach that bit there and you can't quite.
So it'd usually be in a crack system or maybe a face climb. So the holds are just on the flat face type thing. So you would, there would be obviously you'd go as far as the length of your rope, 60 or 70 meters. And usually the way the route would be set up, if it was multiple sections, it'd go towards a little ledge system or a wider crack. And that's when you would change over or hang out, as it were, sort of thing. So that's what I love doing. And I probably did more yomping than I did in the Corps, climbing, getting into the sort of...
Is that a kind of hippie lifestyle? Is it a party lifestyle, or is that nothing to do with it, or is it like a lot of things in life where it can be different for each person?
Yeah, it could be a combination of everything. You'd get quite guys and girls that are quite focused on the objectives that they want to do. Some that just wanted to hang out and climb a little bit and live that sort of whatever lifestyle they wanted to. Some that would do it for a short period of time and go on and do other things. So my sort of goals and intentions within climbing were to be confident and capable at all styles of climbing and push myself to more of alpine, what they would call kind of alpine climbing. So technical climbing in big terrain. So you're moving, you might have a crevasse field to navigate to, or firstly remotely get into, maybe a day's walking or whatever. You have to navigate a crevasse field, maybe a bit of a snow slope you have to work your way up, and then you have a big wall of granite to climb. And throughout that wall of granite, there might be a section of ice on it. It might be cold, snowy on top. So quite exposed. And within that sort of time of climbing, it was the only other time outside of, being in contact in Afghan where I kind of got into, some might say, like these flow states, or where time really slows down, type thing, and you're very focused, and the whole world is shut off and you're just doing what you're doing. So I can still remember, certain climbs and the movements as I was doing them, the texture of the rock, and, it was like I didn't even have to wear a rope. It was just this beautiful flowy thing, and it was quite, some of it was for what I like to do, it was quite militaristic as well. In its approach, there was a lot of planning that would have to go in, a lot of trust between you and your partner. and when you're working and sort of climbing in these big environments, there's a lot of objective hazard as well. You have ice fall, rock fall potentials. You have to move when it's cold. So usually you're navigating those crevasse fields when it's cold. You're moving under those hazards when it's cold. So usually in the dark, you get up at 1 o'clock in the morning, get on the rock or whatever when it's a little bit warmer, that sort of a thing, and trying to get done before it's dark again. So I absolutely love that.
How did you fund this? Is there a way people fund this kind of lifestyle?
Yeah, so you could work a little bit here and there to just fund it. But I mean, I was living out of a truck, man. I was probably living on like a couple dollars a day, buy everything in bulk and just go as cheap as possible to keep the dream going, sort of thing. So I had a lot of savings built up from my security world. Mm. And then I'd work here and there, just do labor jobs, and I loved it, and I think it was like quite a healing process as well from my time, in the military, time outside of it in the security world, just a time to kind of just bring myself back down, calm myself, as it were, but still having focus and intention on what I wanted to do, because like when I did come back to Canada, I was quite lost. I was really lost, It was a completely new world that I was in. Canada was foreign, I didn't really know my family at all. Those relationships were kind of gone at that point, type thing. So it was quite a healing process.
Were you close with your family growing up? Did you have a good family unit, or was it?
Yeah, no, I had a really good family, very, very, very supportive. But just from the, being overseas, I just kind of pushed that away, type thing.
I'm just wondering if you're having a stable childhood has perhaps helped you deal with some quite traumatic situations without taking them too much on board.
Yeah, I definitely struggled with a couple things, but having that support network has been really good to help me, help get me through whatever those things.
Did you ever find yourself, getting chronically depressed or anxious or panicky, or did you go down the drink or drugs route?
Definitely drank a lot when I was in the Corps, but at times I would be able to just stop if I wanted to go onto a course or whatever, or go away. I would just stop. But yeah, when I came back, like there was times when I could see myself going that way, and definitely dipped into that, maybe depression, and just because I didn't have a sense of purpose, as well as I felt like I didn't have a sense of worth. I was like, I did this, and this, I used to do this, and this, and now I can't even get a basic job. What the hell is going on, So a lot of frustration, a lot of internal dialogue, trying to navigate a completely new world. So, I could see where guys can fall off the face of the earth, and they do, and I've had friends that have done that,
Yeah, it's awful to spend several years in a job, and it's very well paid, and it's incredibly secure, and and you perform a role in it, a professional role.
Yeah.
When you're not wearing women's clothes, that is.
Obviously, yeah.
And when you're not drunk. And no.
And other things.
Then you find yourself in Civvy Street, and you suddenly realize, all that training I did, and it just really doesn't count for anything.
Yeah. I know what you mean. Yeah, I mean, and at the time, I didn't know how to take what I had learned, all those experiences, and there's a lot of really good takeaways, kind of to your earlier point, like what the Corps can give people, as a young lad, like great life and all this. I mean, there is a lot you can learn and a lot you can take away. and very easily adapt into another role and use that. And I just didn't see it, or I didn't want to see it, maybe naively, and just, internally getting frustrated at those things of why I couldn't. But yeah, I don't know where I was going on that one, but
well, I'll just chip in there and say it's different now. I mean, for example, with what you experienced in combat, just that alone, you could go on the public speaking circuit. So long as you can adapt that in some way to what companies want to hear, or what schools want to hear, or, there's a way to earn a living there. It's all very much internet and social media based. This is how the word gets around, how you promote yourself. Back in my day, we didn't even have the internet. Email was in its infancy. My friend used to tell me he kept in touch with people through this thing called email, and I was just like, well, I'm glad I'm glad I'll never have to use that. So
and here we are.
It's but it's all well and good having the means available to put yourself out, but if in your head you've got barriers, or you're feeling this certain way, then that it's not going to help you, is it?
100%. And then when that happens, you usually just focus on that, on what's wrong. And I know I did that at different points when I couldn't just kind of, take that condor moment like you do in the Corps, like you do when you're on ops, and you can just step back, take a breath, look around, and then, it simplifies it, sort of thing. So yeah, that was a dicey time. Could have went all different directions, sort of thing.
Was the climbing escapism, do you think, in one? I'm not, and don't say that negatively.
No. It there was definitely aspects of it, escapism, but there was also a lot of intention of what I wanted to do with it. It was very thought out. I had a plan, realistic goal setting with what I wanted to achieve and how I was going to get there, sort of thing. So there was that, but there was also escapism where I was just like, stuff it, I'm out, I'm doing my thing, and I mean, there was times when I did isolate myself even within that world. It'd be winter time in the mountains, it's like -20, -30, and I decided I'm going to sleep in my truck on some back road because I just don't want to be around people. I was pretty much full on in hard routine throughout the winter, and then I would just, come into reality to climb with people, trusted friends. I would do whatever objective it was that I was climbing at, and then I would just retreat to myself. Maybe that was definitely some escapism, maybe a bit of romanticism on my part of, what I saw and what I loved, sort of thing. So yeah, I loved it. It was great, and interacted with some incredible people from all walks of life.
And you're saying you loved it as in past tense. So do you want to tell us what happened?
Yeah. So in 2016, I was out in Squamish. That's on the west coast of Canada. It was quite early season in June 12th. So Squamish is Big Granite Walls. It's one of Canada's, top climbing destinations for big wall granite climbing. They have lots of other stuff there as well. And I was going to this, I crawled out of the back of my truck, sat on the tailgate like I did most mornings, and just ate some oats or whatever. And I didn't have a climbing partner that day, so I decided to go climb alone. And there was a small band of cliffs that I would go to practice different rope works and climbing techniques. And the style of climbing I was doing was called rope soloing. So I just managed all the rope work alone. And I was just going up and down this band of cliffs. And as the day warmed up, a few more climbers came. We chit-chatted, and I remember ascending this rope, and I remember being maybe 10 feet or a body length from the anchor that I was at. And it just all went black, pitch black. And I remember waking up, and I actually, probably one of the hardest times that I ever had in my life. I didn't know what was happening, but I was in hospital. I was in intensive care, and I was going through what they call like ICU psychosis, intensive care psychosis. And I could at times see what was going on around me. I could hear it, I could smell, so some of those senses were there. But I was basically drifting in between reality and horror. And I thought I'd been captured by the Taliban and I was being tortured. I had some pretty intense experiences in Afghan, being very close to the enemy, like face-to-face sort of stuff. So that was all flooding back into me, stuff that was just kind of repressed in there. So that was going on for quite a while. And I was in hospital for about a month when I flew back home to Calgary from the West Coast. And I ended up getting an email one afternoon. It was that sort of towards the end of my 2 months of basically being bedridden. And I ended up getting an email from a climber that saw me fall. So I read through it. And she was basically at the top of her climb looking over at me, and I was at the top of mine. I was hooked in, and I was organizing all these ropes and gear, really gear intensive, the style of climbing I was doing. And she said that she just saw me falling straight through the air. And according to the guidebook, the top of the climb is 65 feet. So she saw me just cruising straight down. And I landed on my shoulder and the back of my head hit a boulder. And I was still awake, still conscious. And she said I was trying to sit up and trying to help. But I ended up paralyzing myself from pretty much the chest down. So I couldn't really sit up. And I was airlifted to the hospital, and I was revived twice in the helo. I had some major complications, which resulted in about 13 surgeries. So I had a fractured sternum, multiple rib fractures. My lungs were collapsed and filling with blood. Layers of my aorta were torn and detached just from the impact of the fall. I had bleeding on my brain, lacerations, broken bones, and all this sort of stuff. So that's when I went into this psychosis, as it were. Had 2 life-threatening infections during that first 2 months sort of thing. And then, I read this and I was like, oh, okay, shit got real sort of thing, But at that point when I read it, I knew what was going on anyway, I was pretty aware of my situation at that point. And that's pretty much when I started doing my physiotherapy and rehab. After that was two months of laying in bed.
It's quite good you're still here, Josh.
Yeah, I'm really lucky. Really lucky for the climbers that got a hold of me that were there. I think there was 4 or 5 of them, and then the rescue service that came in and helped me out.
Do you keep in contact with them now?
No, I actually don't know who they are at all, sort of thing. I just kind of read the email and I was like, cheers, and then time to crack on with what I need to do.
So your anchor had pulled loose, had it?
I actually have no idea what happened. Months later, I ended up doing about 8 months in the hospital, and I came home and I had my bag with all the climbing gear in it and my clothing and all this sort of stuff, and it had all been cut off of me. So I had no idea how to piece it together and figure out what had happened. So that will probably remain a mystery to me till the end of time, which I'm all right with. I don't remember it.
Yeah, sure.
Probably a good thing. Sometimes I do wonder, like, was it my error, or was it an equipment failure, or just a random thing? but I honestly don't lose sleep over it.
No, it's yesterday's yesterday. Today, the now is the now, isn't it?
Yeah. So, sorry, go on.
Well, I mean, I guess the obvious question is, how did they break? Well, I'm guessing you could tell in your own body you were paralyzed.
Yeah, pretty right away.
Sorry to interrupt you, but did you realize that before the medics knew, or before?
No, I had no idea. Like, I don't remember any of it. I pretty much only remember kind of bits and pieces, from when I was in hospital initially, when I was drifting in between that reality and horror. Even that first month, I have vague recollections of it. I would wake up and I would see some of my family there, and then I would pass out again. I really don't remember much of it. I remember some nurses at different points and different things, but it's just so much vagueness surrounding that time. So that was quite difficult. I do remember, those vivid nightmares. And my brother was actually there right away. He came out and he was watching me actually go through some of these nightmares and stuff. And I actually had to be restrained because I was pulling out the cords and cables that were keeping me alive. But even in those points, it's quite interesting. How strong the mind is. Initially I remember, like, I'm captured. This is horrible. Like, and then I'm screaming to like egg the enemy on, and because I was trying to get myself out of there. Even as I was dipping in and out of this consciousness, I was planning my escape. So I look back on that and I'm just like, man, the mind is just, it's crazy what you can fall back onto, sort of. So
Cassidy Little said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
When he woke up in hospital, he was trying to, for people listening, if you don't know Cassidy, he's a Canadian Royal Marine who got hit by an IED in Afghanistan, and he lost the bottom of one of his legs from it. And he said exactly the same thing. He woke up in hospital and he had this confusion as he came to with the, in his case, anesthetic.
Yeah.
Where he thought he'd been captured. And the funny thing was, Josh, after I heard Cassidy saying this on a really good interview that he did, I had spinal operation. And I'm
listening. I'm just going to plug in the laptop. I'm listening though.
No problem. So I've been lying on the trolley and had the two anesthetic nurses, and they're putting the name escapes me, the C thing into my vein.
Yep.
And I looked at one of them. I said, "Oh, what? So when are you going to put the anesthetic in?" And they just looked at each other and smiled and went, "We've done it." And I went, and I was trying to say, "Well, you fucking could have you're putting me under. You're just putting me unconscious. You didn't even tell me." I'm a bit of a, like, I just like honesty and openness. So if you put me under a major anesthetic, fucking tell me you're going to do it. Don't do it sneakily. It was. I don't know if they think everyone's nervous about an operation or something like
whatever.
that.
Yeah, I got it.
Cut a long story short, so it really annoyed me to see these two smirking as though, like, yeah, we haven't told you, and that was it. And so when I woke up from the anesthetic, I was still in that kind of mindset, and I woke up into this kind of like living trauma, and I could see nurses passing around, and I saw the surgeon walk past, and I just shouted his name. I was like, Paul, and I wasn't making sense what was, but it was because it was because, like I say, they put me under when I wasn't ready for it. They should have just said, right, what they normally go, count back from 5, 5, 4, 4, and then you're gone anyway, right?
They just did it.
So I really can, empathize to a slight degree with what with this did you call it a psychosis?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, there's a ICU psychosis. There's another name for it, but yeah.
How soon was it you realized that you were paralyzed then at that point from waking?
I do remember maybe within the third week, maybe, somewhere in there, like being told, and then kind of, I remember like recognizing it sort of thing, but I mean, it was really hazy, but I could, I could tell that I wasn't able to move my body. Well, I was so broken as well, so I was just laying there. But I knew I couldn't really move my legs, and sort of with this injury as well, there's a lot of other complications like neuropathic pain. I was getting a lot of that, and they were trying to treat that. So I was pretty aware. My blood pressure wasn't able to regulate. So anytime that they would try to sit me up in the bed, I would just go faint. So I was starting to become aware of the reality of it. And really wasn't until the second month that I knew, hey, this is the reality sort of thing. And I could just tell, like, no one had to tell me, I'm having to get a medical air flight home, and I can't wiggle my toes or legs or anything, and some things just weren't even registering, like that I wasn't going to the bathroom. I had a bag connected to me, and I was probably just going to the number 2 in a diaper, but I just wasn't even thinking about those things. They weren't registering it until I had to start learning how to do those things on my own. And so I really did have to relearn how to do everything, how to go to the bathroom, how to get dressed, start using a wheelchair, sit up, all these things. And I just saw it, I really saw it as just another challenge to get going on. I could see a lot of pain and depression around me when I moved eventually in the third sort of month into the spinal ward, the rehab ward that I was on. And I just knew, like, hey, I cannot fall into this depression. I know where it can lead. So I was pretty proactive, trying to get myself sorted out. And I had huge support from my family and lads from the Corps and outside of the Corps, some climbers that I knew, and I really wanted to be kind of strong for them in a way, as well as I looked back on lads that had gotten injured in Afghan. I saw what they were doing, lads I knew and lads I kind of read about. And I just thought, well, flip, if they can do it, I can do it. I kind of need to use all this strength that I've had before and now just channel it into something new, and, I was scared, this is something new. And I had to be quite honest with myself about that. If I just pushed it away, it's going to come out later, and you're just not going to be honest with yourself. And that goes for anything in life. So I really had to step back and assess what was going on and figure out where I wanted to go and what I wanted to do. And I got really lucky early on. When I was met by people with spinal injuries, they would come in and visit me and the other patients, share their stories with me. And most of them were para-athletes. And right away I got introduced to a hand cycling group. So I actually started joining them for some rides, 3 months, around the 3.5 month mark. So that was really good. I got to interact right away with people that had been living in the community, as it were, straight away. Some of them were quite recreational, just ripping around, and some, wanted to be athletes. And I ended up meeting my first cycling coach there. And he introduced me to come and train with him and a couple other para cyclists. So 3 times a week I'd go while still in hospital. I'd do my physiotherapy and rehab, and then I would go and I'd start training indoors on a bike. So I'm sure you'll shoot up a picture or something, but it's a recumbent bike, 2 wheels in the back, 1 in the front. You're laying down pretty flat, and the gears are just backwards and forwards. And I remember going there the first time, and I had to be helped out of my wheelchair and onto this bike. And, some of these workouts started going up to 2 hours long. And at the start, I needed help on and off the wheelchair, and I could barely spin my arms. But, I was looking at these younger kids that were there, 13 to 15 or whatever, with a variety of different disabilities. And I was just seeing like the focus and the intensity of these young guys and girls just wanting to cycle and push themselves. And, the ideas that I had of where I wanted to now go. And I could just kind of feed off that, So I kind of didn't, wait around to not feel sorry for myself or whatever. I was pretty intense from the start, wanting to, recognize what had gone on, but then just switch my focus and start going down this. So I got lucky, started training right away, ended up doing 8 months in a hospital. And I came back home, started really figuring out what life in a wheelchair was going to be like. And, it was hard. It still is hard. It took a long time to go to the bathroom, get out of bed, get dressed, shower, all of this sort of stuff, wheel around in the wheelchair. I just didn't have endurance really to push myself around.
Josh, do you have healthcare in Canada? How does that work?
Yeah, so we have a bit of healthcare sort of thing. It's good to a certain extent. I did get a lot of help off the different charities, both in Britain and the Canadian Legion. So that was a huge help. They helped.
Do you need to have any kind of insurance policy, or like America, or? You can do.
Yeah.
But
so it's kind of
basic like public health service. Yeah.
Yeah. Basic sort of thing. So yeah, I was home figuring out what I needed to do and that sort of stuff. And I continued with the cycling. And I started trying other sports as well. And I was just meeting incredible and inspiring people, along the way. And 11 months post-injury, I wanted to do something, to kind of see if I could still push myself physically and mentally again. So I ended up going back into the mountains. I bought a bike, and I ended up going back in the mountains, and I wanted to cycle the length of this Icefields Parkway, which was a road between Jasper and Lake Louise, so 2 really popular spots in Canada, through this beautiful mountain ranges, a lot of places that I had climbed before, and I ended up cycling. And it was probably my 3rd time ever riding outside, and I never rode up any hills before because everything was inside over the winter time. And I ended up getting about 150 kilometers done in this ride. I had to stop because the bike had mechanical issues and I hadn't a clue how the heck to fix them. And yeah, that was another like kind of healing and rewarding thing to do, just like climbing was when I kind of came back to Canada.
How far was the cycle in its entirety?
So yeah, the entirety was 200 and something K, which I wanted to do. And I managed to get like 150K done. It took a long time. I was flipping slow. It was probably like 12 hours worth of riding,
Okay, so you were going to do it in one you didn't
yeah. No, I wanted to do, I was like flipping determined, like I'm doing this, I'm going for it, when I set my like intention, I more often than not, I'm like just focused on that, and visualize the outcomes and all that stuff, whether it's, my time in the Corps early on in training, I could see these guys rocking around with green berets, and I was like, I want that. I can see myself doing it too, being on ops, visualizing things, and now this, or in climbing, there's a lot of that. So yeah, I ended up doing that, and pretty much have stuck with cycling since. So it's been almost 4 years since I've been injured. And now I work, I guess, within Cycling Canada, Paracycling Canada, as a development athlete. So pretty much a full-time athlete, I'm training usually six days.
What? I'm assuming you enter competitions.
Yeah. So within paracycling, we have individual time trials as well as road races. So individual time trials are usually between 15 and 20 kilometers long, somewhere in there, maybe a little bit longer. And then the road races are 30 to 40 plus sort of thing. So individual time trial is just you against the clock. And then the road races, everybody going out drafting, cutting each other off, and usually a sprint finish. So with the time trial, the top guys are probably moving at 40 kilometers plus an hour, depending on the course and that sort of stuff.
That's fast.
Yeah, it is definitely fast, being able to hold that power endurance for 20.
That's much faster than me.
Yeah, I
can do about 10 mile an hour, I think, if I'm not really good at cycling.
Yeah, I'm not that fast. I'm building towards it. I'm still pretty much in my infancy.
Have you done any of these sort of big competitions, like the Invictus Games and stuff like this?
No, I haven't done any Invictus Games. I've done competitions here in Canada, training camps in the States, which are quite intense. And again, like early on in the Corps, where I was surrounded by mentors and really great people. Again, I'm surrounded and really grateful to be around excellent coaches and some of the world's top athletes, both male and female. So I'm able to feed and learn and grow from really, really great people. So I've just been really lucky, really fortunate, kind of with all different avenues that I've gone down in my life with that.
Who makes the bicycle?
So there's a couple companies, but I have a top end bike. That was the first one that I had, which is an aluminum bike. You can get all regular sort of gearing that you would on a regular road bike. And then I have a carbon fiber bike. It's called Carbon Bike, but there's a lot of different bikes sort of thing. So
the difference between carbon fiber and aluminium is quite a lot, don't you think?
Yeah, it's a lot lighter, more responsive.
So much faster.
Yeah, it's really good. So it's actually, and I actually haven't ridden it yet. It's in the shop, getting a couple things sorted out on it. So yeah, the intention with that is to push myself as far as I can, again, both physically and mentally on the bike.
So can we, Josh, just talk about what challenges do you face when it comes to interacting with other members of the public now that you're in a wheelchair? Are there things that, fucking annoy you? Is there a certain traits that people have that are just not really helpful? Can you?
No, people are usually really, really good. I mean, I get really great parking now all the time, which is a bonus. People usually hold the door open for me. If I'm getting into my van or whatever, somebody will, run over and ask to put my wheelchair in. Usually I say yeah because I'm lazy, but no, usually the public men are really, really good. So there isn't any barriers. They're really helpful, thoughtful. So that's been good.
Have you not had this scenario where if you're with can we say able-bodied person? Is that?
Yeah, say whatever. Yeah.
if you're with an able-bodied person, do they do that thing where they talk to that person because they think that you're not,
No, not at all, not at all. So
that's really great to hear.
Yeah, so across the board, it's been as easy as can be, sort of thing. So I've not had any issues with that sort of thing.
And you've been on the public speaking circuit.
Yeah, I've been doing a bit of that, sharing this story. So what I speak on is embracing adversity to push past perceived limitations, perceived thoughts, to build that resiliency. Because that, I think that really is the key to growth, is embracing where you're at, however horrible that is, whatever it is, being brutally honest, true with yourself, because from there you can step out of it and start to grow, push past whatever's coming up in your mindset, whatever that barrier is, and then you can start building from that. So I talk about building stepping stones, whatever they may be in your life. So different organizations I speak to, I'll change that up to leadership or maybe a mental health aspect, So that's what I speak on. Spinning my story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're a great person, Josh.
Thank you.
Well, you just are. What I'm finding a little bit hard at the moment is because I'm now in touch with so many people on a daily basis, by proxy or by media, by whichever way. And it's when I get approached by people that just, they're in that feel sorry for me mode, and I'm going to wear my disability, whether it's, for the most part, it's we're talking a lot of trauma, so PTSD, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'm going to wear it as a badge, and you're like, dude, you don't have to, no, it's like, and well, I guess what I'm saying is you're the polar opposite. You're a no negatives. Yesterday was yesterday. Tomorrow's a new day. I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to keep developing my mind, my skill set. I'm willing, I want to be positive. I want to live this life, and I can. That's the,
yeah,
isn't it?
100%.
The point I'm making for anybody listening, if you have challenges, you need to address, if you want to get the most out of your one chance at this life, you need to address them. You need to speak to people, you need to read, you need to learn, you need to watch inspirational speakers like Josh and take it on board. And no matter what hurdles or challenges you think you're faced with, you can get over, you can get over them. So,
people sometimes ask me, do you have any regrets? And, one thing I do say is a regret as such would be, repeating the same thing over and over again when I know already what that outcome is going to be. You know what I mean? Like, yes, I do fall back and just dwell in some sort of misery and could have, should have, would have, what if, but I know when I do that, I know as soon as I start tempting that and playing with it, I know where I'm going to go because I've already been there. Just like when you grow from using those stepping stones, you can look back and go, oh man, I've already accomplished X, Y, and Z. I've already been through something tough. Well, what's in front of me might be tougher, but I know that I can go to that, get through it, and keep building. So it goes both ways, and that's where the, being pretty honest with yourself and then intention that you want So with that sort of, you know, wearing some sort of badge of honor, whether it's from some sort of mental health issue or just something, whether physical, whatever it is, you know, just got to realize, like, if that, you know, if that's where you want to be, man, you're gonna, it's not a good place. You already know that, and dwelling there isn't going to move you forward, and no one's going to want to be around you, type thing.
And chucking it on social media all the time, you might think it makes people feel sorry for you, but it's just not a good strategy. Do you think that, Josh?
Yeah, you know, I would just shut it off and move on with where I want to go, the people that I want to be around, which most of the time is a positive for everyone around, you know. So, and you can get over so much in your life, whatever the heck it is, you know, physical, mental, you know, people are so flippin' strong, you know, and that's what I look to as well. I'm not saying it for people to look at me and use me as a model, but when I've, you know, been through hard training or operations or climbing, you know, I would always go, flippin' heck, someone has been here before. And yeah, maybe they were incredible, strong, but I can also do that. I can place myself in there and use that as motivation and visualize myself in there, doing it, finishing it, feeling good after, and going through whatever that journey is. And if I fail, I know what I need to work on. I know that next jumping off point, where that is, type thing.
If you fail, you'll just turn it into just another experience.
Yeah, that's it. 100%.
Josh, it's been absolutely amazing to talk to you. I can't thank you enough on behalf of me and also my friends out there watching. You're truly an inspiration. I feel like I've just found out I've got a brother in
you Canada. Do. You got one out here, and
that's lovely. You know, that's a very special thing. You're gonna, or between us, we'll get your links together to put them below the YouTube video. So if people want you to come and speak, or they want to, you know, connect with you in whatever way that they can. Is there anything next on your global agenda?
My global agenda, yeah. So just cycling, a lot of training. I'm looking at getting back into the mountains, like that initial ride that I did, the 150K. I want to smash that whole entire length now in one shot, which I'm sure I'm fit enough to do it, and then push it further. I've done some hefty size endurance rides already in past years, so that's sort of the next sort of goal for me, cycling wise. And then whenever we get out of this crazy world we're in and be able to start competing again, pushing myself in racing and keep building that process to the end goal of competing at the highest levels. So just a huge thank you to having me on, to your listeners, for if they've stuck through to the end listening to me ramble and us go, and I hope they've got something out of it. And anytime they want to reach out to me, those links below, shoot me a message for whatever. I'm more than happy to have a chit chat. So really grateful.
Josh, just stay on the line, because I got to hit the record button off, and I'm going to say goodbye. So thank you ever so much again. Absolutely inspirational. To our friends at home, thank you ever so much for watching another edition of the Bought the T-Shirt podcast. Please don't forget to like and subscribe if you do like, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Friend, thank you for watching my video. I'm the only person I know
that has ticked every item off my bucket list, and I did so coming back from chronic addiction with no help from anybody. Now I want to pass those skills on to you, but I can't help you unless you help me and hit the subscribe button. So please do so, and let's go and smash this world together.